Going on YouTube, Cloverbells here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're doing another spotlight video, and we are looking at Porygon-Z this time. Not Porygon-2, but in fact Porygon-Z. Why might you ask? Because there was a recent almost 100-person tournament and Porygon-Z was on the winning team. So I figured, why not? Let's take the opportunity to spotlight it and see what kind of viability and flexibility and options that Porygon-Z can give us in a regulationH format. So let's look at the Pokemon itself, then we'll look at the winning team, and then from there we'll look at some other data regarding Porygon-Z and see if we can reconstruct or build another good solid Porygon-Z based on the data that we find. Alright, so you look at the stats. Obviously Porygon-Z, not the same kind of bulk that Porygon-2 can give you because of the Violet that Porygon-2 can take advantage of. This time around, Porygon-Z obviously has a ton of special attack, which means it is a main damage sweeper. And you look at the speed stat, it only has about 90, which is one of those tiers where, you know, it's not that fast, but it's not slow either. So it's one of those Pokemon that can do relatively well under something like Tailwind. So if you have something like a Whimsicott with it, or even something like a Talonflame, that's going to be good because that's going to allow you to outspeed some of the stronger meta threats, like for example a Dragobolt. And then after that, you look at the bulk, 85 HP, 70 defense, 75 special defense. So, you know, not amazing bulk, but it's not paper, obviously. But again, nowhere near the bulk that Porygon-2 has because, again, not having the 1.5 boost from the Eviolite. So it's a rather, this is what we call a glass cannon, more or less, right? Something that, you know, can deal a lot of damage, but at the same time can't really take that much punishment, if at all, just because of the not so great bulk stats here, you know, with the HP, defense, and special defense. So right away, we're already thinking, how do I really take advantage and really allow Porygon-Z to do the job that it needs to do, which is basically pick up KOs, you know, help you make favorable trades, and potentially sweep teams that just don't really have an answer to the Porygon-Z. So right away, I know it has, you know, a pretty good amount of coverage moves, depending on how you want to play it. You know, historically, Thunderbolt has been good. That's Thunder. Thunderbolt, Ice Beam has also been relatively solid. And of course, it does have access to Tri-Attack, a very hard-hitting Tri-Attack, again, because of adaptability. You look at if you read it, again, the same type attribute bonus, the Stab, gets multiplied by 2 instead of 1.5. Then you add something like a Life Orb here, which is the most very common item that you want to run on this thing, you know, because, again, it just gives it even more damage that it can do. And then you also add Terrestrialization. Porygon-Z all of a sudden can pick up a lot of KOs here. Sometimes you can even run Choice Specs here, but I think Life Orb is just very, very strong with what it has to do. It also gets access to something like Dark Pulse here, where, again, pretty decent into, you know, size spam matchup where you can click dark moves into the Indeedee, dark moves into the Armarouge, dark moves into the Gallade for that, you know, well, not really Gallade, but again, dark type attacks are pretty good into, you know, the size spam matchup at the same time. You can even do Terra Ground stuff, where now Terra Blast, Terra Ground. Well, now all of a sudden, now you're looking really good in front of Incineroar. You're looking really good in front of like Hisuian Arcanine. Arcaladon is another one that you can also click. This Tyranitar, Excadrill. They don't want to be taking Terra Blast, Terra Ground, so that's also like really, really good. And again, at the same time, the Ice Beam coverage is pretty solid into, you know, Rillabooms, both Blood Moon and the regular Ursalunas, Dragonite, Sinistcha, you know, things that are just weak to ice and electric are just very vulnerable to a set like this. You know, we call this the Bulk Beam set. Historically, this has always been like a very good VGC coverage dynamic duo of moves. Again, I repeat, it's called the Bulk Beam set. But you can also just easily run Hyper Beam here, where you just go for a straight nuke. Terra Normal here, you know, just take out something, pick up a KO. You know, with the adaptability, it ruins a lot of days. And the only real way around it is, you know, maybe a Steel type, as well as at the same time something like a Ghost type where this can just whiff entirely, right? So, you know, you just have to consider that, you know, if they have the Ghost types on their team, okay? But other than that, in a nutshell, it's an hyper offensive mod, so that means, you know, you want to play this on a hyper offensive core and just really bring out its strengths, you know, under the speed control you can have that with either the Whimsicott or the Talonflame. All right, so that being said, now let's take a look at the winning team and let's see what kind of squad was constructed around Porygon-Z. All right, so this was the tournament. It was a Citrus Series tournament at number 7. They always do quite a few of these, so feel free to join these if you want extra practice. And again, if you're trying to, enter some tournaments and test teams out or just play Pokemon competitively in general, make sure you sign up and join these Limitless tournaments on the Limitless website. I'll also link it in the video description below, so this way you can get access to upcoming tournaments and just try your hand at competitive Pokemon in general. I know the channel has gotten a lot of new viewers within the past month that are just trying to get their feet wet in doubles VGC play. This is one way to do it. So if you go into the Limitless website, if you filter out the tournaments that are upcoming, you should be able to find some tours that fit your schedule. Of course, if you're just trying to get something in for competitive play, or if you need extra practice, if you're going to Baltimore, definitely recommend Limitless tournaments. It's good practice against a lot of the meta teams that people are playing right now. Anyway, so here we go. This was almost 100-person tournament, 96 specifically, and in first place here from Mr. iRenegade. He has the Porygon-Z team over here, but it's actually a very interesting Porygon-Z team here. 10-1 result. Congratulations, my goodness. So right away we can see the hyper offensive duo of Whimsicott and Porygon-Z, like we talked about. And there's the Life Orb download set. Okay, download's pretty cool. Again, you can get a special attack boost, which is kind of cool. And then there is that Bolt Beam set that has historically been used on Porygon-Z teams. Again, you can also even consider Dark Pulse here, but the fact that we have a Tyranitar means we don't have to necessarily do that. But look at this, Moonblast, Tailwind, Encore, Protect, very standard Whimsicott here with the Covert Cloak. Terra Rock, how about that? That's quite interesting. Then over here, we have the Porygon-Z here with the download capabilities of getting that boost. Terra Blast, Terra Ground, again, just being able to nuke stuff like Incineroar, other Armor Rouges, Arkeladon for that matter. Really good coverage here along with Ice Beam and Thunderbolt. Just think about Mamoswine. Mamoswine had great coverage with Ice and Ground coverage in general. Now you just add Thunderbolt to that, and all of a sudden Porygon-Z can kind of fill in the gaps, whereas as far as like coverage moves that you kind of need from the rest of the team. But after that, it's an unusual Fire Water Grass core with Armor Rouge, no Indeedee, okay, with Hisuian Decidueye, a Scope Lens set, and an adaptability Basculegion. So here we have two ideas for adaptability. Instead, we're going with the Basculegion here. You don't need the Rain here because, again, there's no Pelipper, there's no Rain Dance Murkrow, so might as well go for the adaptability for more damage, and then go for the Choice Scarf set so that you can naturally outspeed things even without Tailwind, right? So let's look at the Armor first. Again, safety goggles here with Terra Grass. Then you have Armor Cannon, Expanding Force, Trick and Protect. Very standard set here. But what's interesting here is that there is no Indeedee here, so there is no Psychic Terrain, which is interesting in that sense. So it's just a standard Expanding Force with no Psychic Terrain. Very interesting. Then you have Armor Cannon, of course, the signature move of Armor Rouge, and then of course your other form of speed control with Moonblast here. With Tailwind, you have the Trick Room here for the Armor Rouge. Then the Basculegion here. With the Choice Scarf item over here, again, like we said, able to outspeed things. Look at this, another form of speed control. Icy Wind Basculegion, able to slow things down for, your Porygon-Z, for example, or even some of these other options, okay? But again, Icy Wind, able to drop speed by 1 stage. After that, it can also be used as a late game cleaner with Last Respects, Wave Crash even, or you can simply flip turn out into something else. Just imagine maybe Grassy Glide coming into play. You can switch that out into something like an Armor Rouge or Hisuian Decidueye for that matter. And then here, speaking of Hisuian Decidueye, you have Haze here. People forget that the Decidueye does get Haze. So here's your Dondozo matchup. Here's your, +2 Nasty Plot, Swords Dance remover, buff remover, right? Again, Haze is really nice here. And then, of course, Scope Lens with the Leaf Blade, Triple Arrow stuff. That's pretty standard. In itself, and then of course Protect here. So Hisuian Decidueye filling a couple of rows here. You can crit with it obviously, and then also it's not bad into your Dondozo matchup. Even sometimes the Annihilate idea, just hazing away all those bulk up buffs. You can definitely do that with the Hisuian Decidueye here. And it's also pretty decent into some of the other water types that are running around. Tyranitar here. So you'll always see a lot of teams with like a good solid 5 Pokemon core. and then you just need simple weather control, and Tyranitar can do that for you, and it can do much more than just give you weather, right? Again, it's a dark type. It enjoys the size spam matchup a little bit. It gives it a little bit of an easier time. That being said, you got to watch out for Gallade. You got to watch out for Dazzling Gleam, Hatterene. But overall, not bad, especially against the Pelipper teams, the Torkoal stuff. Again, Typhlosion, right? Again, just, the sand with the Salt Vest, you can just tank all of that, and you force the opposing Whimsicott to go for Sunny Day, which is totally fine. Tyranitar can eat everything, especially with this Assault Vest here. You don't really care about the Hisuian, the Typhlosion all that much, right? So that gives you a matchup there. So look at what kind of coverage you got here. You got your size spam matchup. You got your Eruption, Whimsicott, Typhlosion stuff matchup. This is not bad. Also into the Pelipper, Arkeladon teams, you get to have weather control. The Armarouge is not bad also for the Eruption stuff from Typhlosion. Also, the Trick Room matchup idea. You can flip it upside their head. You can swap this into Eruption, from either the Torkoal or the Typhlosion, get a +1 boost that way. The Decidueye, like we mentioned, pretty good into Dondozo and even Maushold and Nihilip to an extent. And then the Basculegion also can do well in rain if it needs to. But other than that, again, with the Choice Scarf, you're able to just deal big chip damage, with Flip Turn, Wave Crash, just take something out immediately and then just repivot it out, or even give yourself some speed control with the Icy Wind for your Porygon-Z idea over here. So that's also pretty cool. And then, like we said, the Whimsicott also just gives you the Tailwind matchup into mid-tier teams that don't really have Tailwind on their team. And then again, the Armarouge, against some of those Tailwind mirrors, you can always click Trick Room, if it's in the right position, of course, right? So unusual partners, but again, makes a lot of sense, just given what they're supposed to do in the meta, right? So, really, really cool squad in terms of like result-wise, 10-1. So, what I want to do now is, just look at lab mouse data and see if there's other people or other ways that have used Porygon-Z, and see if we can use that to construct our own squad, right? So let's hop back onto the lab mouse website here. All right, so again, we're on the lab mouse website here, and again, you always just want to take advantage of the filter options. So this way you can take a look at what's being done right now in the current meta. It helps you a lot in your team building. So again, I'm narrowing it down from like the last month or so, from August, in terms of what people have been preparing with Porygon-Z. So obviously Renegade's team is going to be first here because again, 10-1 results was the best success that it has had. And then just overall, not too many people have had that much success. They've been playing this in like smaller tours, but overall just not too much data slash success with Porygon-Z, because again, there's much better options to use. If you really wanted like a normal type damage nuker, people are using either the Blood Moon or Soluna or even the Hisuian Zoroark. I think those are better options than the Porygon-Z. But again, if you really wanted to build Porygon-Z, I think the hyper offensive way is the way to go. But to me, there are better options. So let's take a look at Rod's team over here. I think it's also a pretty interesting idea. Again, you can see the Tailwind idea that instead of Whimsicott, it is a Talonflame. And you also have a Trick Room balanced Pokemon, not the Armarouge, but again, the Farigiraf here. And this is pretty standard. Look at this. You have and this is pretty cool. You have the Sneasler stuff with Rillaboom. So you have Unburdened stuff going on here. And then you have the Hisuian Arcanine here. So double Fire Core with Talonflame here. And then just Intimidate, Fake Out, Pressure. So, that's also pretty cool. I guess Imprison's really nice. Again, so Imprison, Hyper Voice. That's going to really hinder Primarina a little bit, right? And then, of course, Imprison Trick Room at the same time. Is also very crippling when you're able to click that in the right spot. But look at this. This is Adaptability Porygon with Hyper Beam, Terra Blast, and Ice Beam. So again, foregoing the electric coverage move, but still keeping the Terra Ground, Terra Blast. It's pretty cool, honestly. I think it makes a lot of sense in Porygon-Z this time around. And then, of course, we already know what Sneasler Rillaboom stuff can do. Grassy Seed Sneasler, get a defense boost, and kind of go ham from there. Clear Amulet Arcanine means it can't be intimidated, which is also like pretty cool in general. Then after that, there's not really much, right? I see this team over here. This is like a screens idea from Drillbee over here. Ninetales, Garchomp with Palafin, Volcarona, and Rillaboom. I'd much rather see back Scalper. It is a Scarf Garchomp, so that's pretty cool. Interesting enough. This one's also pretty cool. How about Whimsicott Hydreigon Porygon-Z? I kind of like this too. You know, again, this also gives you like a decent size span matchup. And then the Scarf Porygon is also interesting. Discharge here. You know, I don't know about Discharge, but, you know, okay, sure. But, you know, just if you look at the lab mouse stage, just not much going on for it right now. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But there is a couple things you can do to make your team building ideas a little bit easier. All right, and then that's just really centralizing around the hyper offensive archetype, and then literally just have Porygon-Z fulfill that role in terms of like your team, just be like that sweeper in a hyper offensive core. So let's build that, and then from there, let's take a look at some battles and see how the team can function. All right, so I'm gonna actually make this relatively simple here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take a hyper offensive core that I know, and then just build that, and then literally focus it around Porygon-Z. So if I have a Talonflame here, obviously my next 2 slots already decided. I already know I'm going to go with the Goldango idea here. And then at the same time, I love Primarina, and this is one way to really start off your core. Like, you know, Talonflame, Goldango, Primarina is a pretty good starting core on a lot of Regulation H teams. And again, you know, just as like a general starting point for, you know, for team building, if you start with a proven core, that makes it much easier than building around like one Pokemon, right? Because, you know, the Porygon-Z is fulfilling a niche on a team of 5 that is lacking something, right? So the way I see it, you know, give me the 5 that's already proven, and let me find a slot in that last 6th option that the rest of that the other 5 maybe kind of struggle or need some help against, right? That's the way I like to view team building a little bit sometimes. So we have the Talonflame, we have the Goldango, Primarina. I like Goldango with Porygon-Z in this kind of sense because, again, if you just consider what Porygon-Z is weak to, it's that fighting coverage, right? Which means Goldango as a switch-in looks really good because, again, you are a ghost type, so that also ends up being really good. And then you have fighting resist at the same time with Primarina and something like that. And then at the same time, you have access to Haze here, so you have your Dondozo Annihilate matchup covered a little bit, especially when you have Goldango going for Make It Rain, where, you know, you're getting your special attack debuffs. You can just immediately remove that with the Primarina. So there's good synergy here. And again, you have the Tailwind support from the Talonflame to give all these options the speed they need. Because again, looking at their speed stat, you know, 90, 84, 60, not very fast Pokemon. Gonna need all the help they can get with something like Tailwind here. So, you know, I've got a Fairy type. I've got a Steel type. I would love a Dragon type. Let's get a Dragon type that can also do decently into Size Spam, for example. I do like Hydreigon here. Okay, and this is another, and again, these 4 together have also been proven over time, right? Hydreigon, Goldango, some Haze user, it's either something like a Murkrow, but in this case, you can do Primarina now, and then have the Talonflame be that Tailwind option that you won't get with the Primarina, right? So here's your 4-man core. So now look at this. I've got a Fire type. I've got a Fire Water type. I need a Grass type here. I've got the Dragon Fairy Steel combo covered. Give me a Grass type. Give me something for Trick Room. Can't think of anything else but something like Amoonguss. And this is very, very easy in terms of something like this, right? So, you know, obviously, if you wanted to make this team a little bit better, you can even add something like Tyranitar here or some kind of weather control. But I think the team itself like this just is a pretty decent starting point for a hyper offensive team. And then you just have like 5 proven Pokemon already that function relatively well together. You could even put in like Blood Moon or Saluna for this matter. But I think Porygon-Z can still do fine with a team like this. Okay, so how do we want to round out the team? So look at this. Talonflame here. We'll play the support set. Let's do Covert Cloak. Okay, Tailwind, Brave Bird, Taunt, Will-O-Wisp. Again, really, really good support Pokemon that Talonflame can give you for the team because you have a lot of strong offensive threats here. So, you know, having support options like Talonflame and Amoonguss give you a decent backbone there that you can rely on if you need some help in terms of creating space and giving you proper positioning, right? And then after that, so the Porygon, we can do a couple things here. You know, adaptability is pretty good. Same with Download. I think they're both solid. I'm going to go Download here because sometimes getting a nice special attack boost is always pretty cool. And I will go with the Terra Blast, Terra Ground here. I think Terra Blast, Terra Ground, along with the Bolt Beam coverage is quite good. Gives the Porygon-Z a little bit more flexibility in the types of matchups that you can bring it in. Goldango, let's just go choice specs here. Technically, you can go, you know, what's that thing called? Leftovers with Nasty Plot, because again, you have the Tailwind control, you have the Amoonguss here, you know, with the redirection to even like set it up. So you can definitely consider that. But I think if you just want to be like super aggressive here, I think you can also just do the choice spec stuff. I think it's also totally fine, right? Then after that, Make It Rain, you know, Shadow Ball. I like Power Gem here, and then Trick. Okay, so, you know, again, the Trick will also help you in some cases in that Trick Room matchup. And then at the same time, you know, you can trick a choice specs into any one of these Pokemon here, especially the Porygon-Z sometimes. But yeah, I would not necessarily do that sometimes. But anyway, after that, you have the Pre-Marina again, so you can just do like Moonblast, Hyper Voice, you know, Haze, and then Protect here. You have the option to do Throat Spray. You also have the option to just simply do Mystic Water, and then, you know, just do a lot more damage with your Hyper Voice here and deal minimal amount of damage with your Moonblast. Up to you how you want to play your Pre-Marina. So again, either Throat Spray or the Mystic Water set is also okay. Either way, I think it's totally fine no matter how you want to play it. But for purposes of this video, let's just go Mystic Water here. Hydreigon, we have the Amoonguss here. I have the Tailwind support. Let's go the crit set. Might as well. Scope Lens, Draco, Dragon, Dark Pulse here, and then Focus Energy, Protect. That's Focus Blast. So let's set up the crit damage. This is going to also help you into Dondozo. Just not care about those +2 special defense buffs that I guess you can just potentially KO it with the Draco Meteor, depending on their investment, right? The Amoonguss here, pretty standard set, of course. I like Citrus Berry, Regenerator for a little bit more recovery, Rage Powder, Pollen Puff, Spore, and then Protect here. So a couple things with the Terra types. We can go Terra Ghost here on the Talonflame, you know, just again against the Dragonite E-Speed Choice Band stuff. That's why you have it along with the Cobra Cloak. It's not really necessarily for the Fake Out. The Cobra Cloak will help you for that. It's for Dragonite E-Speed, as well as the Hisuian Arcanine. Porygon-Z, we've already discussed. Goldango, Terra Steel, Make It Rain with choice specs is always solid. I like Grass Terra here. Again, pretty good against Rillaboom and other electric type coverage moves. Hydreigon, you can do Steel. You can also do Fire here. You can also do Poison. I think Steel is okay. But if you want to do Poison, you can definitely do Poison if it's a little bit better, because again, Poison with Levitate looks really good. The only thing you have to worry about again is just the Expanding Force stuff. But at the same time, you know, Steel also is very solid, especially on a rain team too. Amoonguss, I just like Terra Water. I think Water is also pretty solid on Amoonguss on something like this. Okay, so this is the 6. You know, it looks like a pretty solid 5, and then it looks like there's a Porygon-Z here, right? So it can still work. You just have to be in the right position to bring the Porygon-Z in certain matchups, okay? So in terms of an EV spread, let's keep things simple. Let's just go Jolly here, okay? Almost max attack, just 1 point in the bulk stats here. All right, that's all we really need out of the Talonflame. Amoonguss here, I like this set right now where I am Relaxed Nature, and then at the same time, I am optimized to at least take a Hurricane from Pelipper, a Blood Moon from you know, an Ursaluna, and then just literally dumping the rest here in defense. Also can take a Flare Blitz from Incineroar decently well. So, you know, all the bulk in the world for your Amoonguss. By the way, just in case you don't know, I am going to 220 here for the Citrus Berry optimization. Normally the bump here in the defense would be 156 investment. But again, I am going for a little bit more here. I just wanted enough special defense to live the calc that I wanted, which was the Blood Moon, you know, Blood Moon from the Ursaluna. And then at the same time, you know, just literally go past the bump here and just invest a little bit more, because again, it's extra EVs. So you might as well just dump it here. But that's our Amoonguss set. The Pre-Marina, if you watched our previous videos, we just EV this always to survive the Rillaboom Grassy Glide. And then at the same time, have enough speed to outspeed the max speed Adamant Dondozo. So this way you can haze it first. And I will show you that here. I will go 60 here. All right, this is all you need, right? Because Dondozo caps at 175. With the buffs from Commander, this will go to 176 under Tailwind. So you get to outspeed it and go for that haze at the same time. So the bulk that we want is 244, 54, 52, I should say. This will lift the grassy terrain. You know, grassy glide stuff from a Rillaboom, and then after that, you can just dump the rest here in special attack. which is again the second bump here. And again, if you don't know what EV bumps are, make sure you comment in the video below asking what are EV bumps. I will respond to you. I will reply to you. It's a very fundamental skill to understand in competitive play. But we've also have 2 videos, technically 3, about, optimizing your EVs. We even have a whole video titled explaining what are EV bumps. So go ahead and watch that video if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, comments what are EV bumps. I will still reply to you in a decently cohesive fashion so you can understand it, okay? And understand why and how we are able to create EVs like this, okay? After this, this is just leftover EVs, these 40 points here. So we just dump this here into special defense, and that's really it. And at the same time, if you want to get a little bit more value out of your Moonblast and understanding, look, my Hyper Voice does enough damage already, you can always, just re-optimize this, and, you can just take away the SPDF and then just add a little bit more into your special attack stat like this. You can even take away a little bit more and then just add until you're able to hit the bump here, which is right there at 187, and then that could be okay if you're fine with giving up the Rillaboom calc. Otherwise, you can still keep it at 108 here and still keep your Rillaboom calc and then just literally dump leftovers here in SPDF, and it's still like totally fine. All right, Goldengo here. Choice specs, again, just go 252, 252. Make it pretty simple for yourself. And the Porygon here, it does have Life Orb. Now, normally, if you remember from our Life Orb videos, we've always been able to optimize the Life Orb chip where we would go to a stat ending in a 9 here and then just do this, right? Max speed, and then dump the rest here in special tech. Not too bad. But this is a little bit too much of a damage loss. I feel like you're going to miss out some KOs here. So in this case, you can forego the optimization and just go for your damage stat here. And Timid 252 is totally fine. If you wanted a slower, bulkier, modest set where you're still hitting this 187 mark, obviously you can go modest 116, the second bump in its stat. So this way, this is the same as Timid 252, 252. And then after that, you can go for a certain speed tier. In this case, you can go for something like this where you can go for 120, 121 and outspeed the modest Pelipper's, max speed, or even just go this much, 189 optimized for the Life Orb chip, and then after that, dump the rest here into physical defense. And this is a slower but bulkier Porygon-Z spread, right? So you can definitely do this if it floats your boat, if you like it. Sometimes the bulk pays off quite well, okay? But if this is a hyper-offensive team, I'm just going to keep it as 252, 252 for now, of course. But later on in testing, you can always change that, but at least as a decent starting point, you can do this, okay? So this is the team. All right, I just want to make sure we have our abilities down, download torrent up. There it is. It's torrent again. That's not what I want. It has to be liquid voice. I've done that before. And then this is levitate. That's regenerator. There's download, and there we go. Gale wings. Okay, so we caught 2 abilities that we missed. But this is it. So overall on paper, you look at it, you say like, I like these 5 mods. It's already proven. Here's a Porygon-Z. Cool. Maybe it comes in specific matchups, and that's the way you're supposed to play it. You're not going to bring it in every game, right? It's a relatively niche mod, but when you do bring it, it's supposed to fulfill the job that it's supposed to do, okay? So let's test it out in a few games, and let's see how the team functions. All right, so this is one of those like Trick Room teams, with Instant Farigiraf, with Blood Moon or Saluna in the back. Then you have Goldengo here, and then again, rounding out your Fire Water Grassco with Primarina, Instant, and Rillaboom. So right away, you have to ask yourself, can I bring Porygon-Z into this matchup? The answer is yes. Look at the coverage you have here. You've got the Ice Beam for the Rillaboom, and even potentially Blood Moon or Saluna. You have the Terra Blast, Terra Ground for Goldengo and Instant. And then at the same time, you have Thunderbolts for the Primarina. And if it does go Terra Grass, then you have Ice Beam for that as well, right? So, and then even Terra Blast, Terra Ground for, like I said, the Goldengo. But again, Porygon-Z looking really good. The only thing you hit for neutral is that Farigiraf there. But other than that, you have stuff like Hydreigon that can help you out here. And even to an extent, the Amoonguss. But I also like Talonflame here, just again with the taunt pressure to deny the Trick Room setup from the Farigiraf, which he should be incentivized to bring because he wants to deny my potential Tailwind here. But I wouldn't really go for Tailwind anyway against a Trick Room team. I just want to deny him from being able to click Trick Room and having his Blood Moon or Saluna sweep me, right? So That's the plan. So he does lead the Farigiraf. There's the Blood Moon Ursaluna. I'm going to go Talonflame here for the taunt purposes, and here is the Porygon-Z. Now, he can Terra here, the Ursaluna, but he ends up not, and that costs him because now we just go for a +1 Ice Beam, and that absolutely just runs through Ursaluna, and that's it. That's his main sweeper. He can't use Trick Room. Goldango comes here, but look at this. Terra Ground, Terra Blast. Now, I thought he would switch Farigiraf here because it's taunted, but he keeps it in, so I can't quite click Brave Bird there. Doesn't matter. I outspeed the Goldango anyway. So he just lost his 2 main sweepers here. Now he's just stuck with Farigiraf and one of his like mid-tier Pokemon. There's the Primarina. Again, now we can just chip this thing with Brave Bird because we've broken our HP, and then Thunderbolt just cleans up Primarina after that. Look at the coverage we got here. Now the Farigiraf can beat us with Hyper Voice. Looks like that's a modest set, but that doesn't matter because again, we have 2 more Pokemon in the back. We have the Primarina ourselves, and our Hydreigon here looks really good against Farigiraf overall. Dark Pulse comes out, and you know, it does have a berry, but you know, single target Hyper Voice with Mystic Water does tons of damage here. So you know, overall this game's pretty much over. But again, what he really had to do was Terra the Blood Moon there to at least live the Ice Beam. But even if he did that, we still had Primarina and Hydreigon at the same time in the back, and no Trick Room means he can't set up the Blood Moon, which means we still outspeed everything that he has, and we're still like totally fine from there. Oh my goodness, this is the mirror. I've seen this team before. Somebody linked this in his stream. I was like, yo, this is like Kieran's team or something like that. So he's also got a Porygon-Z team. Here's a Grimmsnarl. The problem with this is besides Incineroar and Politoed, you know, again, this team kind of struggles against Goldango particularly, and even Primarina to an extent. Like, you know, if you don't have the Hydrapple, and even with the Hydrapple, Primarina kind of just, you know, eats a lot of this. As well as Goldango Hyper Offense, again, just dealing so much chip damage here. You're almost like forced to bring Incineroar here. So, you know, very simply, I just leave the Goldango here in this case. I can leave PZ home more or less. I could bring it also. It still looks really good in terms of coverage with what it's supposed to do. So he goes Terra, goes PZ. Obviously, he has Shadow Ball there, which is another good coverage you have against the Porygon. And then you can also consider, you know, against fighting types in general. But Make It Rain just removes the Grimmsnarl. He does have Light Screen, doesn't really matter. And the Terra Steel helps me survive the Shadow Ball there, right? So Brave Bird, chip damage into Hydrapple, good damage there. Sucker Punch doesn't kill, just not that strong. And then Make It Rain picks up the Porygon-Z. I don't think that crit mattered there. It was already low. And again, Goldango Specs is strong. Does have a Politoed here. Doesn't really matter. He just forfeits. We've got Primarina in the back along with I think it was the Hydreigon that we bought. But anyway, from there, it was just easy peasy. You gotta have something for Goldango, but this is the strength of the hyper offensive squad, where if you can just analyze the team preview and understand your win conditions, and if your opponent doesn't have something on their team to really deal with it, then they just lose in 3 turns like this. Okay, one of those, again, Farigiraf Blood Moon teams with balanced stuff. He's got double Incin, he's got double Grass Cover with Rillaboom and Amoonguss. There's a King Gambit there. Again, you could easily lead stuff like, again, Talonflame with the Porygon-Z. Again, great coverage into everything here, right? Again, Ice Beam into Rillaboom, Terra Ground, Terra Blast into Incin, Ice Beam for Amoonguss, Ice Beam for Ursaluna, Ground for the King Gambit. PZ looks really good here. Just got to make sure Trick Room does not go up. So you can easily lead that, but I decided, I want to try a different approach here, see how this lead fares out. I'm going to go Hydreigon instead with the PZ and see what he decides to do here, right? So here's the Farigiraf. There's the Incineroar. So fake out Trick Room stuff, maybe even Parting Shot to Blood Moon here. But I'm going to go Terra Ground here. He's just going to fake out. Doesn't want me to set up my crit stuff. I'm going to nuke the Incin, right? It doesn't kill, so he's got great investment there. Okay, and there's the Trick Room that goes up, all right? So he goes, I'm going to go into Amoonguss here, right? Hyper Voice does a lot of damage. Okay, and the Incin wants to just click knockoff there. He removes my berry, which is a little unfortunate. But I do get to set up the focus energy. I could have even, just removed the Farigiraf there, but this is still fine. But again, Parting Shot, not a huge loss. I still have the crit boost here. Blood Moon comes out. Again, I just want to remove the Farigiraf here. So this way he doesn't have a chance to wake up and just, do that. Again, I did Spore that stop, but still like totally fine. Again, he's going to be forced to ideally protect here, but I just want to double protect against the fake out. So, just doing that. One more turn of Trick Room left, which means I can Spore the Ursaluna, which means he's more than incentivized to protect. The Incin can't kill the Hydreigon, and I know that for a fact. So this will always KO, and he just goes for the Amoonguss anyway. So again, just Dark Pulse there. Very easy to do. And now the Trick Room is gone, and now Hydreigon looks pretty good here. And there's the King Gambit. But again, just protecting the Amoonguss, let it stay on the field. This Ursaluna was sashed for some reason. It surprised me. Okay, and there's the low kick into Hydreigon. But again, just don't use Sash Ursaluna. I just noticed the King Gambit is Life Orb too, so that's something else there. But Primarina, I'm able to just clean things up here. Again, no Trick Room means I outspeed everything. My Porygon-Z has the investment now, but you know, he protects the Ursaluna again. That's still more than enough damage into King Gambit. But again, Life Orb counts on Cleave does a lot. But now you're in range of the Hyper Voice, and that pretty much means it's over, you know, because that Life Orb chip ends up costing him. But either way, you know, Primarina in the end game was just looking really, really strong overall. All right, we'll do one more here. So again, another hyper offensive team here this time. So we've got Whimsicott with the Hisuian Typhlosion Eruption stuff. So that could be a thing. But this is also where Talonflame looks really good here, because again, just having the Brave Bird priority into the Whimsicott is really good, because again, that's also fine. You know, just with whatever we have, we can just remove his Tailwind option if he decides to go for it. But if not, then, you know, we just go from there. But anyway, how do we respect the lead? So I'm going to go Talonflame here. I'm going to go PZ. And, you know, again, priority Brave Bird looks good. He's going Salazzle Dragapult here. Very interesting. But again, PZ, you know, looks pretty good in front of the Dragapult here. I just want to Will-O-Wisp this thing, so this way the Dragapult is neutered, right? That looks good there. And now we can just click the Earth Pie. It's Dragon Dance Dragapult there. I don't recommend that on a hyper offensive team. I think you just want damage. But Terra Blast into the Sash Salazzle expected, because the Cloak is on the Whimsicott. So he's going to forgo the Goldengo here, because I always pin the slot. But again, just getting my Tailwind up looks really good here. And the Dragapult continues to take burn chip damage, and the Dragon Dance attack is not enough for him to do enough major damage. But again, he does Encore instead of his own Tailwind. I think that's a mistake. I think you always just want to Tailwind your stuff, but he doesn't. He just goes for the Encore. Misplayed there, and now PZ again still lives, because again, burn Dragapult not doing great. Just Salazzle in the back. I have Primarina anyway, so you know, as long as I can just dodge stuff here. Again, the poison is not going to be great against Salazzle, but nice against Dragapult, right? So as long as I remove the Salazzle, we'll be okay. Instead, he just goes for... so we outsped the pull, he protected. Just a Heat Wave there. So it picks up PZ, but that also means no poison attack, right? So now we just pick up the Salazzle there. And then we're just kind of chilling from here. Because, you know, it's just a 3-on-1 here. So... Terra Blast, but again, Tailwind just makes that Primarina outspeed his +1 Dragon Dance Dragapult. Just always want to play it safe there, but again, Burn Chip was doing a lot of damage there. So again, Talonflame winning us this game, because the Dragapult was kind of neutered, and we somewhat ignored it, and then we just focused on the other slots there, and it just wasn't really getting enough aggression from the Salazzle. So that's it. You know, there's the team. There's something that you can use with PZ if you really wanted to use Porygon-Z. Again, you know, just it looks like... yeah, I slapped on 5 broken Pokemon, you know, with the Porygon-Z, and that's really what happens when you want to use a niche Pokemon. Again, I'm just filling out coverage that the Porygon-Z can give the rest of the team that it normally just does not have. So you look at this, I needed electric coverage, you know, ground coverage also, and then you know, ice coverage. Porygon-Z can give me all of those things at the same time. So that's really good there. You can see I've got my matchups for the other Pokemon. Again, I've got Primarina for, you know, Annihilate Dondozo stuff. Hydreigon's not bad into Psy Spam things. Amoonguss gives me the Trick Room matchup. And then at the same time, you know, you can always crit things with Hydreigon. Goldengo early game, you know, with Talonflame just does tons of damage. They almost have to respect that versus like the PZ Hydreigon stuff, right? So, you know, just all of that considered. But again, this is just like a decent starting point that you can use with Porygon-Z. But again, you know, I always say... right now, regulationH is a very lawless land. Anything can be viable if you just surround it with the right team, because again, you don't have broken legends that can run through whatever strategy you have, you know, with just their broken stats, right? Now, with the power creep so low, well, not so low, but with the power creep lower, Pokemon like Porygon-Z can actually come out and play and, you know, be relevant in a competitive meta, right? So give this one a go. Let us know how you do. And again, if you're still interested in building a team, if you need some help, if you're not sure what direction to go, if you want my assistance, again, sign up for coaching on the channel. Tier 3 sub gets you a one-on-one session with me And then from there, we get to build a squad from scratch, just like how we did here. If you need it for just simple ladder play, maybe an online tournament, maybe for Baltimore regionals coming up, we've got you covered. We've been doing a lot of coaching on the channel the last couple of weeks for this format. So if it's something you're interested in, and if you're willing to spend the $10 with the tier 3 sub, again, just message me on Discord once you do. You can join the Discord, that's free. But again, it's a one-on-one team building session. A lot of people like it because we take our time with it. We like to explain the building process and what each Pokemon likes to do. Special matchups, of course, we cover that in our session. And of course, the math, right? We always like to do the math with the squad building. All right, so sign up, and then from there, we'll discuss more on Discord. All right, but anyway, that's it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.